Lesson 4. So far we've learned 3 different major scales and the chords that go with them, they're major triads. So we started with the C major scale, we numbered the scale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and we know that to make the C major triad we use 1, which is the root note, the key note, 3 and 5. There's our chord of C major. We can also play it in the left hand, so we look for the root note, the C, and then we know the scale is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We want the 1, the 3 and the 5, and there's our chord of C major, or our C major triad. It's called a major triad because it's 3 notes. It's the simplest chord. We can do the same with G. So we know our G major scale starts on the G. So we want the 1st, 3rd and the 5th notes from the scale of G major. And there's our G major triad in root position, because the root note, the G, is at the bottom. The 3rd note of the scale is in the middle and the 5th note of the scale is at the top. And we played that with the left hand, no problem. We learnt the scale of D major, which starts on the D. To work out these scales, you've probably written this down, you've got your formula. So you know that the intervals that make up a major scale are tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. An interval is the distance from one note to the next. So our D major scale, we want the 1st, 3rd and 5th notes to get our chord of D major. And same with the left hand, D, there's the 2nd note, there's the 3rd note, 4th note, there's the 5th note, there's our chord of D major. So far we're playing major chords which are happy sounding chords. We can easily turn them into minor chords, which makes them sound sad. The important note is the 3rd note of the scale. So let's go back to the scale of C major. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 1, 2, 3, that 3rd note of the C major scale, that's the important note because that's the one we're going to alter to turn the chord into a minor chord. So we take that 3rd note of the scale and we flatten it, which means we drop it down a semitone. Remember, a semitone is one move to the next closest note, and we're going downwards because we're flattening. So E dropped by a semitone makes E flat. So there's our chord of C minor. It's still the root note, the C, 1st note of the scale. It's the 3rd note of the scale flattened, and it's the 5th note of the scale. So there's our chord of C minor. You can hear that that's melancholy, sad sounding. To go back to the major chord, we take the 3rd note of the scale back to where it is in the major scale. C major, C minor. Same with the left hand, there's our C major triad. To turn it into a minor triad, we take the 3rd note of the scale. There's our 3rd note, we flatten it. Other than flattening the 3rd note of the scale, the rest of the chord stays the same, going from major to minor. So there's only one move to take us from the major triad to the minor triad. Okay, so it's good to practice changing between them and get used to the sound. So what we'll do is we'll use our 4/4 timing, which means that we're going to have 4 beats in a bar, and we're using crotchet beats. This bottom number tells us we're using crotchet beats. And we're going to play a bar of C major with the left hand, and then a bar of C major with the right hand, then a bar of C minor with the left hand, and a bar of C minor with the right hand. Okay, I'm going to count in this time. The count in gives you the tempo. The tempo is the speed of the rhythm. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Back to major. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can hear that's happy again. Back to minor. Goes sad. So you get used to the changes and you get used to hearing the changes. Okay, then we'll go to the G. So let's have a chord of G major with our left hand and a chord of G major with our right hand. To change to the G minor, we take the third note of the scale. So the scale, 1, 2, 3, there's our third note. When we're playing the chord in root position is with the root note at the bottom, then the third note of the scale is in the middle, and that's the one that we flatten. And there's our chord of G minor. Okay, so again with the right hand, there's the G major. One move, the third note of the scale is going to flatten. There's our G minor. So we'll do the same exercise. 4 chords of G major with the left hand, 4 of G major with the right hand, 4 chords of G minor with the left hand, 4 of G minor with the right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You're always trying to play regularly so you get used to playing in a rhythm. Okay, then we'll go to the D major chord. So the root note is D. We know the scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 1, 3, 5. That's our chord of D major. The third note of the scale is that F sharp. So to turn the chord into a minor chord, we take that third note of the scale and we flatten it, we drop it down a semitone from F sharp down to F. There's our chord of D minor. You can hear how tragic that sounds. Okay, so same exercise, 4 of D major with the left then the right, 4 of D minor with the left then the right. And we can shorten the counting by saying 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you keep the tempo to whatever you can manage in a relaxed way. So now we've doubled we can play 6 chords now instead of 3, just like that. So we're going to add a couple more scales to the repertoire. So far we have learned the C major scale, which had no sharps, G major scale, which has one sharp, F sharp, D major scale has 2 sharps, F sharp, C sharp. Now we're going to try A major scale, which has 3 sharps. You can see it's got the sharps we've already used and then a new one. Hopefully you've written down the formula. It's the scale of A major, so A is our root note, so we find an A. Let's go to this A here. Get used to finding the A by looking for the 3 black notes together. There are 2 white notes between them. The higher one is the A. So tone, A to B, B to C sharp, then a semitone to D, tone to E, tone to F sharp, tone to G sharp, semitone to A. And we're using the same order of fingers that we've used for the other scales so far. Our fingers are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going 1, 2, 3, and then we're crossing over and using them all. Okay, so A major scale. So easy peasy to find the chord of A major. It's 1, 3 and 5. There it is. You also know how to turn it into an A minor chord, the third note of the scale. Remember, I'm numbering the scale now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 1, 2, 3. The third note of the scale flattens. It goes down a semitone. There's our chord of A minor. So A major, A minor. You can keep pausing the video to practice these, obviously. You do the same with the left hand. A is the root note. There's the A major scale. So the chord is the root, third and fifth. Chord of A major. Third note of the scale flattens. And we've got a chord of A minor. Easy peasy. Let's try the scale of E major. So we find an E. You might find an E by working your way up from the middle C, C, D, E, or you might find E by looking for the pair of black notes and it's just above it. There's our E. So we want a tone and a tone, E to F sharp to G sharp, then a semitone to A, tone to B, tone to C sharp, tone to D sharp, semitone to E. And there's our scale of E major. Still using the same order of fingers, and with the left hand, there's our note E. A little bit harder to play with the left hand, possibly. We're playing 4 black notes in this scale of E major. Now let's find the chord of E major with the right hand, so go to the E. We want the root, the first, third, fifth notes from the scale. There's a chord of E major. We can make it minor. We take the third note of the scale, we drop that by a semitone. There's our E minor. So we've fast-tracked now to knowing, I can't even count, 10 chords, 5 major chords and 5 minor chords. Now we'll have a go at a little chord progression like we did in lesson 3. A chord progression is where you run through a set of chords. You can just keep repeating it. We're going to do a 4-bar chord progression, and this is actually the verse for Sympathy for the Devil by Rolling Stones. Our first bar is going to be E major, our second bar is going to be D major, third bar A major, fourth bar E major, and then we loop it, we repeat it. So you'll end up playing 2 bars of E major in a row, because the last bar of our 4-bar progression is E, and then back to the first bar is E as well. Okay, we're playing this in 4/4 time. So 4 beats in a bar, they're crotchet beats. You remember our crotchet is written thus. So in 4/4, each bar, which is between the bar lines, is made up of 4 crotchet beats. Okay, let's have a go. So we are going to play these chords in root position. So our E major is going to be there. Now the other chords, D major and A major, are exactly the same shape as the E major. All right, so we can keep our hand as it is and just shift it down so that we've got the D as the root. There's our chord of D major, and then we can keep the same position again and we can go down to the chord of A major, A as A in the root, and then we can go back to the E. So your hand doesn't need to, your fingers don't need to alter. We've just got E major, D major, A major, E major, then you repeat, so E major again, and so on, D. We'll do a root note in the left hand as well. So the root note of E major is E, the root note of D major is D, the root of A major is A. Remember, you want to have minimum movement with your hands and fingers to be as efficient as possible. So we want to get our left hand in a place where we don't have to move. We can just leave it there and play the notes. Have a practice of that before you put two hands together. So let's have the E with finger 1, your thumb. We'll have the D with finger 2. And then the A with finger 5, which will be a little bit harder. It takes that finger 5 a while to strengthen up, but stick at it. So have a practice just leaving your hand in this position and playing E for the count of 4, D, A, 2, 3, 4, E, 2, 3, 4, and again E, 2, 3, 4, D, 2, 3, 4, A, 2, 3, 4, E. You can go slower than this. Go as slow as you want to. Okay, so now we'll put the chord with the root note. I'm going to count you in. Let's do it slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4. E, 2, 3, 4. D, 2, 3, 4. A, 2, 3, 4. E, 2, 3, 4. Repeat. E, 2, 3, 4. D, 2, 3, 4. A, 2, 3, 4. E, 2, 3, 4. And if you can just keep going around this, you'll get used to finding those 3 chords, which are all the same shape, which makes it easy. If you can find a metronome online, or you have a metronome, it's really good to set the metronome to keep you in a really regular rhythm. Just make sure you set it slow enough that you don't start scrabbling to find the chords. Okay, so let's have a quick recap of those major scales. If I play them one after the other, you'll hear that they all sound the same. They're in different keys, but they're the same sequence of intervals. Remember that an interval is the distance from one note to the next. We know that every scale is this pattern of intervals, and that's why even when you play them in different keys, they all sound like a major scale, and you'll get used to the sound of the major scale. We get used to the patterns of intervals. That's why if you hear a song in a different key, it still sounds like the song, because you are still hearing the pattern of intervals, just moved to a different key. So C major scale, G major scale, D major scale, A major scale, E major scale, and I'm using the same order of fingers for all of them, so you can practice all those scales with your right hand and then your left hand. C, G, D, practice the major chords, the major triads in all those keys. It's really good to use two hands. Get used to playing with two hands. So, you know, you can go to the C major. You can either play it with two chords at the same time, or you can practice doing, you know, left, right, right, right. Make some stuff up. Left, left, right, right. And count it as 1, 2, 3, 4. Go to the G, 1, 2, 3, 4. To the D, 1, 2, 3, 4. And so on. You can practice playing the minor chords now. So C minor to the G to the D. You can write yourself some little chord progressions. Just keep it to, for now, a 4-bar progression that you just loop. If you're writing a minor chord, use a little M to show that it's a minor chord. And just get used to playing those major scales and the major chords and the minor chords. Okay, see you soon.